Hello everybody, and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at the 2022 Michigan 3 congressional election that will happen in November, my analysis of it. But before we get started, please do comment down a district you want to see next. Again, we have no particular order here. I'll do any district you guys want, unless it's like super boring, but I'm hoping you guys will comment down actually competitive districts. But yeah, so again, no order, so I'm just going off what you guys want to see. This was actually a suggestion from I think 3 people in the comment section of my previous district analysis video, which was Ohio 9. So if you didn't watch that, go watch it. It's about Marcy Copter versus J.R. Majewski. But yeah, so we're 2 people commented Michigan 3. We're going to do Michigan 3 now. And we're going to just get right into it here. So again, comment down your district of choice you want to see next before you forget, and sit back and enjoy the video. Now, Michigan 3 is essentially it's a left trending district in western Michigan. It is primarily based out of the city of Grand Rapids. So let's take a look. Michigan 3 here. We'll grab that. We're gonna that's Michigan 8. No, Michigan 3. Michigan 3 is right there. There we go. So Michigan 3, as you can see, takes the city of Grand Rapids and its more Democratic leaning suburbs like Kentwood, Wyoming, as well as the more light red areas of Walker and Grand Rapids Charter Township, which narrowly voted for Joe Biden in 2020, actually. Then they grab some of the more far out suburbs out here. As you can see, these are light red kind of down here. So they take this portion of Kent County. It's actually not all of Kent County, because Kent County, there's some redder parts way out here that are very Trumpy. As you can see, I'll show you for a second right here. They're very, very Trumpy. But they kind of they really ostracized them from the bluer part of the district. They kind of cracked the county in half, and then they kind of snaked it in. They grabbed the northern part of Ottawa County, which is a pretty Republican-leaning county, and then they grabbed the southern part of Muskegon, which is a Democratic area, because they took the city of Muskegon, which is very, very blue, as you can see here, and they put it in with this district to create a Biden plus 8 district. So again, voted for Joe Biden in 2020, but it's going to be competitive this year. And so let's talk about why. So first of all, this is a seat that is very, very left trending, and it is evident, like the best evidence you can ever give to show how left trending this seat is just taking a look at the 2018 governor's race. So actually, we're going to zoom out before we do this. So as you can see, Joe Biden had a decent showing in Michigan. You know, he narrowly won the 7th and 8th district. He narrowly lost the 10th district, came kind of close in the 4th, but he did pretty well in the 3rd. And so, he won the state of Michigan by just under 3%, which was a decent but not amazing showing. Now, an actual amazing showing was the 2018 governor's race, where the Democrats won. Gretchen Whitmer won by 10%. And as you can see, all the red districts got a little lighter shade of red. 10th district went from a Trump plus 1 district to like a Whitmer plus 4 district. She also won the 7th. She did very well in the 8th. She even did better than Biden in the 4th. But in the 3rd, as you can see here, she did a little worse. So Joe Biden won the 3rd district by 8%, but Gretchen Whitmer won the 3rd district by a little over 7%. So Biden did actually about a point better than Whitmer in the 3rd district, despite the fact that he ran 7% behind her statewide and ran behind her in every other single congressional district. And so that just goes to show how left-trending it is, because even in elections like 2018, where the Democrats did so well in Michigan, they still did better in 2020, just solely based off of left trends. That, I think, is the best evidence you can give in favor of the Democrats winning Michigan 3. So left-trending, even when you get an environment much, much more Republican, because obviously 2020 was 5% more Republican than 2018 nationwide, and it was 7% more Republican in the state of Michigan. It's still trended to the left. And I think that's the best argument you can make for this district flipping to the Democrats this year. So let's talk about the candidates here for a second. So in 2020, obviously the boundaries were a lot different. This was a seat that Donald Trump in 2020 carried by about 4.2%. And Peter Meyer was the incumbent Republican. He won by 6% over Democratic challenger Hillary Scholten. So this was a seat that was expected to be competitive, was still leaning Republican. Most forecasts at the time had it as a, tilt to lean Republican seat. I had the Republicans winning it by a couple of points. But the reason that they did so well here was because Peter Meyer was a good candidate. He was a household name. Obviously, he was he's a relative of the guy who created the Meyer grocery chain, which again is mostly in the Midwest. I'm not from the Midwest, so I don't know too much about Meyer. My grandparents shopped there though, so I've been there before. But again, it's kind of because his last name was a household name. He was much more moderate than Donald Trump, and in a suburban district like this, with the city of Grand Rapids and stuff like that, that's what really happens, right? Like, you have these more moderate, candidates doing better in these suburban areas than Trump, and it's kind of the case everywhere, where a lot of Republicans in the House outran Donald Trump because they were viewed as more moderate, more suburban voters came out to vote for them. So that's kind of what happened here. And then when you take a look at what we saw in Michigan 3, Peter Meyer outran Trump by 2%, or 1.8% to be exact. And he was pretty well liked. He probably would have made this race really close, maybe even won re-election this year. But something else happened, and I'll tell you about that. So Peter Meyer voted to impeach Trump, and that really angered a lot of the right-wingers in the party, and Trump endorsed his primary challenger, John Gibbs. And John Gibbs narrowly won the primary, and he was aided by the fact that, I mean, not really aided, but he benefited from Democratic spending in the race where they attacked, they kind of attacked John Gibbs for being too far right, but what we saw was that Republican voters in the primary actually liked that. Democrats said, well, hold on, we're attacking this guy because he's, too far right, too conservative, whatnot. And it was meant to be an attack, but actually boosted John Gibbs in the primary. And so there's an argument to be had about that. Some people think it was just malpractice on the Democratic Party's part. Other people think that it was intentional because John Gibbs would have been a weaker opponent for the Democratic Party, because the consensus was that John Gibbs was much easier to beat than an incumbent as well liked as Peter Meyer. And so what we saw was that John Gibbs only won this primary by like 3,900 votes. It was very close, and although he did win every county, it was still like very, very tight here. And so Peter Meyer went down, and this is probably very frustrating for a lot of Republicans in the House who wanted to hold on to the seat, because, again, Peter Meyer outran Trump by 2%, and he would have done a lot better than John Gibbs in the district, which is why the district is now, in my ratings, lean Democratic. I think the Democrats are favored here, and I think they could win it by even more than 5%. Because, again, this is a very left-writing seat. It's a very it's very college-educated, very favorable to Democrats in the future, and so without an incumbent who is very moderate like Peter Meyer, you kind of get the Republicans catching up to what happened in 2020, where Trump lost the seat by 8%, despite the fact that down ballot Peter Meyer did a lot better than him. And so that's, I think, kind of the background on this race. And we're just going to learn a little bit more about the district now. I'll look at the data sets here. So if the 2020 Senate race was a little closer, John James only lost the seat by about actually 2.3%. So it was fairly close to the Senate race. John James outran Donald Trump, as you can, like I said. Donald Trump did really poorly here, whereas down ballot Republicans did a lot better. In the 2018 Senate race, John James was the candidate once again, and he lost to Debbie Stabenow in the 3rd district by about 3%. So he actually did a little better in 2020 than 2018. But again, Michigan, he lost by 4% less in 2020 than he did in 2018. We talked about governor's race, Attorney General 2018. Dana Nessel actually lost the seat to Tom Leonard. It's interesting because Nessel did very poorly in the western part of the state, but she actually did a lot better than Joe Biden when you look at the 10th district or the 8th district, which are more working class areas. So the realignment we're really seeing here, because again, Dana Nessel lost the seat by 0.6%, and she ran essentially even with Joe Biden in the state, but Biden ran nearly 9% ahead of her in the district. So again, further evidence of left trends. Now, in 2016, Hillary Clinton narrowly pulled it out. Again, it was very, very close, but she did win 3rd district by about 0.2%. It was very, very close, but again, she did win it. So I think we're most likely to kind of see a repeat of the 2018 Senate race here. That would be my best guesstimate, because again, as you can see in 2018, Debbie Stabenow beat out John James here by about 3.3%. I think that's a fairly good margin for the Democrats. I do think that they could win by a little more again. If I had to guess, it would probably be by 4%, but 3.3% is fairly realistic as well. The best case would be winning by 8, because they'd be running even with Biden, and like that could happen. John Gibbs is a really weak opponent for the. He's really good for the Democrats to be running against, because he's very, very radical, very extreme. He said Democrats eat babies. He has a track record of even some Republicans don't really like him, and ultimately that may be good for a lot of people who agree with his policies more than they do with Peter Myers, but from an electability standpoint, this is objectively bad for the Republicans that Gibbs is their candidate and not an incumbent like Peter Meyer. So I do think that Hillary Clinton's going to beat out John Gibbs. Again, she's running for this second time, and she actually did decently well in 2020. She lost, so she's not an amazing candidate, but she kept it close against someone like Peter Meyer, who was very well liked back in 2020. And so I do think that John Gibbs is going to lose this race, and that the Republicans are going to regret not running Peter Meyer. So yeah, that's it for this video, guys. My prediction here: Democrats carried by left trends and a weak opponent, going to win the seat by 4 or 5%. So thanks for watching. Comment down the seat you want to see next, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, guys.